Hello and welcome back to the Eurogamer podcast. My name is Chris Bratt and I'm joined by some of the people that do work at Eurogamer, including my boss, Editor Ollie Welsh.
Hello.
My Bitcoin bud, Christian Dunlan.
Hello, we're going to have to explain that.
We bought some Bitcoins together and we're buds.
We bought some Bitcoins.
How many Bitcoins did you buy?
Well, interesting answer. It's actually 0.0619 of
How much
Bitcoin.
dosh is that? How much did you spend?
It was 20 quid. I think it's worth a little bit less than that now.
It's worth a little bit. Oh, no.
Don't worry about it. We'll talk about it later. We need to have a very serious discussion.
It went down, then it went up.
With the reveal
now it sounds like it's gone down again.
Yeah, that was apparently a bad thing. We didn't know enough about what we were investing in.
Because he
basically.
backtracked.
He's backtracked, and that briefly helped us.
Yes.
Oh.
But now it's gone down again.
This will be in our separate podcast, the Bitcoin
The Bitcoin
Birds.
Beds. And we're also joined by, you might have heard him there, Bertie Pacheese.
Oh, yeah.
I'm never confident about saying your surname.
Purchase is fine.
Is Pacheese wrong?
Sort of.
Why have you never told me that before? This is why I'm not confident. Okay.
No one says the surname, they just say Bertie.
I know, but I do it for everyone else, so it just felt...
You're like Beyonce or Rihanna. You just Bertie.
Yeah, B.
Or Sting.
B.
Yeah.
Cold.
I'm a Scorpio, actually, so I've got that's a sting sign.
Nice. With this being an audio-only podcast, that little hand
They
gesture
can't see
there
me doing
was
my hand.
great. Really
That was
appreciate
great
it.
radio, great tape, as they say.
Anyway, we are going to talk about some video games that we've been playing, but we're probably going to start with Christian because you need to leave shortly.
Go home.
So,
my child, yes.
Also, we've both been playing it, which is exciting.
Oh yeah, we have.
Do you want to say it?
You say it.
Oh God!
No,
I just want to hear how you pronounce the last word.
We've been playing Clash Royale.
Clash Royale, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, but the thing
Spoiler.
is, I'm not sure how you felt about it when you started playing it. I thought I was going to hate it. I saw Rami from Vlambia talking about it online, and I respect that man's opinion because he makes some good games. So I was like, well, surely there must be something to it. But also, this is Supercell, the people that made Clash of Clans, and usually are associated with microtransactions and, for a lack of a better word, like casual mobile games.
So this is a horrible, cynical, greedy game.
I went into it thinking that, expecting that, and...
Hoping for that.
Yeah, maybe a little. I'm a games journalist after all. And I mean, it is a game with microtransactions. It is free to play. There are some very clear incentives to like skip timers on chests when you open them, or to buy new cards. But fundamentally, underneath that, it's a good game. It's for people that haven't seen it already. It is basically a mix between it's a multiplayer only thing. So a mix between tower defense and sort of Hearthstone. You draw cards and place them down, and the way that you spend like resources to like put the card down in the first place, very very similar to Hearthstone. But yeah, it's a multiplayer tower defense game, and it works really nice. It plays really really nicely.
I prefer it to Hearthstone. I know it's early days and it's foolish to say that, but there's a couple of things which are amazing about it. For one thing is the battles last 3 minutes, and that is just the perfect amount of time because you just go into each one and you go, it doesn't, like, if it turns out well, if it goes well, that's great, and if it doesn't go that well, it's also great. And so there's a couple of things that are really nice about it. 3 minute battle is fantastic. For the last minute, your elixir, which is your mana equivalent, doubles in speed, which means that each battle has this natural crescendo of...
I should point out, actually, I compared it to Hearthstone, and that's completely fair, but it's in real time, you're not taking turns to place cards.
Oh.
And so the fact that the elixir is in double speed means that both sides are placing down units really quickly.
And also,
snap.
because it's real time, there's very much more a kind of bluffing element with the person you're playing against.
Totally, it's absolutely that. That's what the game is to me.
It's completely brilliant. The other thing I'd say is, because one thing I've realised is that with Hearthstone, I never really make any decks because there are so many components, there's so many elements, and the meta seans so interconnected and complex. And
particularly now, I don't know how fair that is to say, but yeah, particularly now after a few
one
expansions.
card. Often you need 3 other cards to make it. I'm over the top with that. But like, what's great about Clash Royale is there are 8 cards in your deck, and all of a sudden I can get my head around the entire deck. And so today I was thinking, what happened if all of my cards were were really low mana costs?
That's crazy talk. My average elixir cost is 4.
Yeah, but because of that, because you have 8 cards and it shows you your average elixir cost, you can actually spend a few minutes just kind of lowering it, going, I actually want it to be a bit lower.
Yeah.
It feels like all of a sudden I'm much more engaged with the meta side of it. In fact, people talk about the meta with this game as much as they talk about the meta with Hearthstone.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
patches change the meta.
It's quite fun to... I don't know if it's got an esports scene as such, but there are some pro
people who
teams,
are,
and the game makes a big deal out of them, and you can watch replays and like learn from how other people play it at a much higher
The other
level.
thing I'd say is amazing is that it is a free-to-play game, which actually I am pretty happy with the model, because the way it works is that you have, is it four or five slots along the bottom? 5 slots along the bottom, which when you win a game, you get a chest in that box, and the chest takes like 3 hours or 8 hours to open normally. And then once those 5 spots are filled up, you can keep playing games and you get cash for them. You just don't get any more chests for them. But
that's a very recent change, by the way. That came in like the last few days, which
but it
shows
works
they are
really
listening
beautifully
to their community.
And what works really well about the chests is that actually it means this game has worked its way into my life, and I'm always thinking about it. So what I've been doing, my wife was...
I feel like you used this actually before we go on to that. During that, we just had an editorial meeting for Eurogamer. No, what? Christians... I'm progressing you up here. I want to
It's
know
not as bad. It's not as bad as you think, but it is worse.
I
than
had
you
nothing
could
to do
think.
with it, nor do I endorse it. His alarm went off during the meeting to remind him to open another chest.
This is what I've been doing. So every 3 hours at home, my wife is not over the moon about this. My alarm's been going off, and I go, "Oh, that's brilliant! Open a chest." It just means that I'm playing. It feels like a very civilized pace to play the game.
Sure.
And I feel like each day, if you have to win a certain number, you can win a certain number of battles, and you get a free chest, a coin, a crown chest. It's really clever.
Yeah,
it's really, really clever.
Has either of you actually played Clash of Clans?
No, but actually, funnily enough, I'm going to play it for a week.
I want to now that I've seen Supercell.
Because we sort of assume it's rubbish, but also it probably can't be because it's so incredibly popular.
I have a story about this. We were in, just after you joined Eurogamer, we were in the queue at Tucked Away, which is our local restaurant, our local sandwich place, which we're not entirely in love with anymore, but that's another story.
Oh,
and there was someone behind us in the queue, and they were having a very animated chat with their friend about this amazing thing they'd done in a game. And they were really enthused about it. They said, I woke up this morning and he sent 2 dragons and I was ready for him and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what game are you playing? Because I'm one of those weirdos who talks to people in public sometimes. And he said, playing Clash of Clans. And I was like, well, there must be more to this game than I thought when I played it for half an hour. So I'm actually going to write a piece about trying to play it for a week or two and to see whether it works its way into my skin. The other thing about Supercell I read is that they give a lot to charity, including a children's ward.
Mate, that's exactly what I'd expect an evil company to do.
This is terrible. I got really excited about this, and then I realised it shouldn't be noteworthy. But one of the big things about them is that they pay tax. Like on their Wikipedia page, it goes, Supercell actually pays corporation tax. And they paid, what is it, 0.6%
of all of Finland's
tax revenue comes from
They're actually incorporated in Finland.
Yeah,
I bet Finland taxes the hell out of its corporations.
They're owned by Japan. They're owned by a Japanese company, but they pay all of their tax in Finland. And yeah, they pay a lot of tax. It was like 560 million or something.
It is weirdly reassuring to know that. It shouldn't be.
But no, it shouldn't. Yeah. Like, this is the sort of thing I get told off for going, that's really good that they they do that. No, of course it's not really good. They're literally... No one goes, Chris is all right, he pays his tax.
Well...
You said too much.
Yeah, I've been just really pleasantly surprised with it.
The way the cards clip together, finding little combos in the cards. So, the cards you place, you should probably explain this, the cards you place become your monsters, which you then throw at the other enemy's towers.
Yeah, destroy the most towers, you win.
And there's something, it really works. It makes you think about combos instantly. So, for example, giants who are tanks, they're very slow moving. They do a lot of damage to the towers, but it's very easy because they're slow moving to whittle them down before they get there. So you think about who to put with the giant.
Yeah, a giant on its own is worthless, but you put a giant with something backing it up.
With some archers or a bomber.
Yeah, and that's really it's interesting with a game like that, considering it's a tower defense meets God thing. Like, placement is really important.
Oh, everything is important. Placement, timing, how long something takes to spawn.
What do you think the other player thinks of you whilst you're playing?
Most of the time, you're trying to work out what they're doing, and sometimes you get players who will put, because you have 2 lanes, it is perfect for strategy, for a 3-minute strategy game, to have 2 lanes. It's that sort of Schrodinger's cat thing where, they're going to come down one lane, and sometimes they come down both, but if they come down both, they're going to be weakened.
Yeah.
It's really a good video game.
I will say, I've been playing a little bit of the ranking stuff, and I've got to Arena 3, and it is really... I've hit a certain wall.
Do you feel do you feel you've hit like a money wall, or...?
I don't think it's money. I think it's actually time, because the one thing that maybe I'm not completely crazy about with this game is that your cards level up. So even once you've unlocked a card, if you get another 10 of them in chests, it will then upgrade to the next level, and all that does is give it more health and more attack. And this also happens with your towers as well. If your account levels up, it gets a bit more health, a bit more attack, which is fine, and it gives a sense of progression, whatever, and also totally encourages microtransactions. But it means that now that I've been bouncing around at the same rank for a while, I'm meeting other people that have been doing it, bouncing around in that rank for even longer than me, and they're slightly higher level.
I think that because they separate you, because you move up a rank and you get a different arena, and you're then with people who are a little bit better or have cards which are a little more powerful. It reminds me a little bit of something like Diablo when you go to the next zone in Diablo, and you're just a little bit underpowered for a few minutes. Or a few hours or whatever, and then you slowly build up. It doesn't because they're banding you with people, and bands seem to be quite tight. People can never be.
I'm less okay with that in multiplayer though. I think in single player that's fine, and you should totally be able to do that. I think in multiplayer, particularly with the shadow of microtransactions, I can't quite shake it. I really like the game. This is the first bit where I'm like, oh god, okay.
Has either of you spent any money yet?
No. I know though Parkin has. I took Parkin into playing, and he's already spent money.
Really?
Yeah.
How much has he spent?
I don't know, but he said he's in for quite a bit.
My thing with a mobile game is I'll play it for like half an hour, and if I actually like it, if there's an option to spend a chunk of money to make something go away, like there's in Alphabet where you spend a chunk of money for infinite honey, I will just do that because I actually want to feel like I've bought the game.
Yeah, there's definitely that. I mean, the thing I would pay to change is the word clans, because we have formed a clan.
Yeah, and it's
we
really
were discussing
weird.
it this morning, and we realised we'd said the word clan
way
quite
too
a
much.
lot.
Way too much.
Anyone walking past would very much think that we were in a clan.
Can we reveal the name of your clan?
If anyone would like to join our clan, it's called the Nice Mates.
Nice Mates.
Oh no, it's just Nice Mates. Yeah, Nice Mates.
It's just called Nice Mates.
So yeah, that'll probably wrap it up for Clash Royale, but it's worth a go. It's free, and if you are turned away from the microtransaction stuff,
it's really slick. Really slick.
I'm very happy to be wrong about that game, which is good.
Jeez, you guys love it.
Yeah.
That's the Nice Mates way.
Yeah. Who else has been playing something that they like? I'm liking the positive energy that's going around right now.
I can't help not be positive about Overwatch, which I have been playing in closed beta, but the open beta.
Yeah, it feels way better to be able to talk about it now because actually I've realised last time we talked about it on this podcast, we're getting really infused about something that only we can play, and that's a bit rubbish. For people listening.
It's really nice watching people's reaction in comment sections and just wider, on Reddit and wider places that people are going, I didn't think I'd like this, or I've been ignoring this, but I've seen all the hype and I played it and I had fun with it. And that seems to be the resounding word people are saying. I'm having fun with this, and they're picking, because you have 20 heroes or something.
21, mate.
21 heroes to pick from. There's someone for everyone. And so people are finding fun with different characters, and in fact, because the open beta is on console as well, the closed beta was only on PC. I've been playing on console as well, and I've been playing different characters on console.
Yeah, there's a slightly different metagame from what I've experienced, just because we've talked a little bit about this before, and we've actually got a video on the site about how the console versions do play slightly differently, and a lot of it comes down to turn speed, I've found, just because of playing with the controller. Even if you mess around with the sensitivity, most players aren't going to be quite as quick with the reaction as a mouse and keyboard. So the metagame's a little bit different. I found that flanking characters really good on consoles. I don't know if you've seen the same thing.
Yeah, although I've not actually experienced people's turn speed be that slow. Well, it's the accuracy. It's the long range accuracy, because if you put your controller sensitivity up. Mm-hmm. It means you can turn fast and you're great as a short range character. But you lose at long range. You lose the little movements to sofa sniping and things like that. So people's sniping game isn't as strong. Because obviously on PC you get some incredible snipers. There are certain characters that are dominating on console because they're left unchecked at range, and
it's interesting to hear them talk about it as well. They have some experience with not console shooters, but the console. They obviously had Diablo come over and made some smart changes in terms of how that game operates.
Some fundamental changes.
Yeah,
it's a different
it was
game.
great on console.
Yeah. It's great, but it's
an amazing example of a game where the content is exactly the same, but the game is completely different.
Yeah, it's a twin-stick shooter, Diablo on console a little bit.
And for Overwatch and the consoles, they did a couple of things. So I know they're definitely changing for characters like Widowmaker, the sniper. You said it is more difficult to snipe. I know they're mucking around with the auto aim a little bit at the moment to try and make that work.
Yeah,
and also,
I never really noticed the auto-aim.
Do you think their balance punches are going to have to be different?
A little bit. So far they've said it's all marginal stuff, but the example that I like, and it is to do with the turn speed, is that like two of the characters can build turrets in Overwatch, and in most situations they should work exactly the same. However, if you walk into a room and someone's put a turret behind you in the corner, you won't be able to turn and react to it quite as quickly. And so they've marginally reduced... I've forgotten exactly which stat it was, but basically the turrets do less damage on the console. And it's a tiny tweak that you'll probably never really clock. And it shows that they anticipated a lot of this stuff going in. And from what I played, the console versions are good. I want to play PC, but the console versions are good.
I thought because I played a bunch on PC, just can't stop playing it. And I thought, and when I originally played it on console, I found it really hard it's a different kind of freedom having a mouselet.
Yeah.
And I was wrestling with it a bit. But now I'm really warming to it on console. I think it works there. And again, I'm picking slightly different characters, a kind of melee character who doesn't need to be so precise.
Right,
and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm getting away with a lot of stuff on console that, because it's been going for a bit longer on PC, I wouldn't necessarily get away with.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's probably already over now.
You guys are secretly lording it over the console.
But it's probably already finished now, because like we had that for like the first couple of days of the beta, and now like, all right, everyone's probably just as good. we had like a little bit of map knowledge. It's quite interesting you mentioned that, actually, because we're seeing the console metagame sort of replicate what happened with the closed beta on the PC to begin with. A couple of things like Bastion, which
that's
is
the one people are saying
a character
most,
that can turn into a turret. Extremely, extremely powerful if left in the right position. He could just mow down the enemy team. And that's really difficult to deal with until you understand how to switch between heroes and which heroes work against him. And the PC, I know they patched Bastion and changed him slightly, but the PC crowd have sort of come to terms with that, and he doesn't feel overpowered anymore. But on the consoles, still, I'm seeing some of the same issues that we ran into in the early days of the PC. So it's kind of interesting to see these two different ecosystems, learning the same ideas.
And how they adapt to it. Yeah. But it'd be fascinating to see, because I've always pegged it as a predominantly PC game, and I think that it's the scene will be on PC, and I'm still
the pro stuff definitely. Yeah, I'm not sure. I sense that it might do quite nicely. So it is this return to like the 90s shooter in a lot of ways, or if you haven't got a decent PC and haven't got access to games like Team Fortress 2, and also Blizzard is still really big name, I reckon a lot of console players will be tempted.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but like it's going to be whether it gets that groundswell really, and whether it starts to put a foot in the door of the Call of Duty market. I was saying earlier today in a different conversation how Call of Duty is just in terms of consoles, it's just synonymous with playing an FPS. It's like if you play a football game, you play FIFA. If you play a shooter, you play Call of Duty. Even Battlefield can't claim that. It's a case of whether you can win enough of those people over that they will tell their friends, you need to play this. I do think they've made a mistake by not offering the cheaper basic edition on console. So on console, because they want to justify a full retail price for it, you can only buy it in the special edition, which comes with a bunch of skins and stuff. And 40 quid is quite a lot to play for a multiplayer-only game. Yeah. Even if you're going to play it for hundreds of hours, that's how people think. It's like, well, it's only got 21 characters and whatever it is, half a dozen maps.
Yeah, more. I know what
people just, that will stick in some people's craw, especially since they know that you can buy it for 30 quid on Battle.net.
Mm-hmm. I've seen exactly those comments, people saying exactly the same thing.
I just don't understand why, if only on the digital stores they don't do like a basic edition on console. I think that will get so many people over the hump and into playing the game. You know, price it there or thereabouts with Counter-Strike. That's absolutely fair enough, but price it against Call of Duty when it doesn't have a campaign seems weird.
Yeah,
it feels like because of the open beta, what they're hoping for, I'm assuming, is that they're leveraging the brand value of your friends a little bit. So if your friends are playing it, you're going to have to,
which is totally how it works.
Yeah.
I did notice we mentioned Christian's gesturing that he needs to leave. He's trying to be subtle so that it doesn't interrupt the podcast. So
I just didn't want to interrupt your train of thought. I'm going to put my bottle down on the table briefly now while we look at that. Muscle up, bye-bye.
See you. He's talked about Clash Royale now, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
He did interrupt my chain of thought as well. What a prick. I can't even remember what I was saying. I found it interesting I went along to the console kind of hands-on for Overwatch, slightly ahead of the beta, and the interesting thing was that I think there were a handful of journalists there, mostly from the US, and the rest were all YouTubers, and lots of them came from Call of Duty backgrounds, people that upload like 7 Call of Duty videos a week at least, and actually I think it's quite a bit more than that. And they want to get that crowd in. They know that's the way on consoles. You don't manage it.
They've definitely got a shot. There's a huge market out there of people who play Call of Duty and probably watch a bit of Dota, who want a game that is both of those things, and they want to play it on a PS4. And it's definitely got a shot, but it's an unknown really. On PC, I think it's a foregone conclusion that the game's going to be absolutely massive, and that there's going to be a streaming scene and probably an esports.
I think it deserves it as well. Like I think it is a fantastic game from everything I've
had
so far.
non-stop fun with it. Yeah. Every time, and I wake up and I think of new strategies for a map, and I think, I'll try that next time. It's that kind of game.
Yeah, we like send each other gifts on a daily basis that much better people than us have created, and yeah. Oh man, I'm looking forward to that being a proper thing that's out there.
Is it fun then, having kept that secret for so long, to see everybody else out there just?
Yeah. It's fun to see it vindicated. With everyone going, I'm having a lot more fun than I thought. I can't stop playing. Like I played all weekend.
I want to play it for years as well, and which will require a fan base. Like especially the model they're going after. They're not going to sell maps and characters. They need a substantial number of people.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So. Yeah, I'm glad to see that it's looking like it's going that way.
They'll sell skins.
Yeah, and
I would buy them.
Yeah, God damn it. Yeah. Ollie Welsh, how about yourself? Oh, actually, it's been a huge week for you. This was the Uncharted week.
Yeah, so I've been playing Uncharted 4, which, as of now, if you're listening to this, you can actually buy and play for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's very, very good. It's completely unsurprising because that's what you expect from Naughty Dog. Like their quality control is amazing, and it has, like, you expect it to be beautiful. It's beautiful. You expect it to be very well finished and to have a very seamless flow of both narrative and gameplay that just kind of pulls you along in its wake, and it does that. It's also good in ways that I didn't quite expect as well, because I wasn't quite sure where this was going to end up. I recently played through all of the previous 3 games when the Nathan Drake collection came out. And I enjoyed them all. In retrospect, I had problems with all of them as well. And I was interested to see what was going to happen, because what you had was this first game which laid out a kind of style of gameplay and of storytelling that people were obviously really going to love, but was quite rough and was a little bit boring towards the end and had a lot of heavy concentration on gunplay that really wasn't very good. Then you had Uncharted 2, which absolutely nailed this formula for a cinematic action-adventure experience and gave you all these incredibly memorable moments, action set pieces, the train, crawling up the carriage as it hangs off the hillside, the little Himalayan village when it's all quiet. And then you had Uncharted 3, which was so desperate to outdo everything that happened in Uncharted 2, it kind of overcooked it a bit. Right. Although it did some other interesting things as well, and I think it maybe got a little bit of a harsh rep in the long run. But there were a lot of possible pitfalls. And on top of this, the fact that the original creator, well, at least the lead creative of the Uncharted series, Amy Hennig, had left Naughty Dog some time into the development of Uncharted 4, along with the game director, that huge amounts of what they had made had been scrapped, and that the control had been handed over to the creative leads of The Last of Us, which had been a massive success for Naughty Dog. You sense there was going to be quite a lot of creative tension there, and that there was and I did not notice it at all, and that's what really surprised me. And I think once you get to the end of the game, you're going to be able to look back on it and say, and I can't really say how because it would be a spoiler, but you'll be able to look back on it and say, I see the different route that they took that Amy Hennig might not have done, or at the very least, I see the different way that this game went to how the first 3 games went.
Okay.
But initially, while you're playing it, you wouldn't know. You really wouldn't know. It feels so Uncharted. It feels like a pitch perfect resolution of the kind of stuff they'd done in those previous 3 games, which is an amazing achievement. But I also liked how they brought it down a bit. It's like I say, I think if Uncharted 3 had a flaw, it was that it was almost hysterically dramatic. It was like, let's surprise you with where we go in every chapter, and let's really push Nathan Drake, the character, into emotional extremes. Let's make him a bit dark and obsessed, and let's do loads of really crazy, surreal stuff towards the end of the game. And a lot of that stuff is out. And there would have been a temptation to try and keep that up and keep up that sense of like, because it's a series defined by over-the-top dramatics and cinematic spectacle. But they have, and this is where I think the Last of Us guys, Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann, come in. They have an instinct towards just bringing it down a few notches, just underplaying it in the way the dialogue's written, in the way the performances are delivered, and in the sort of direction the story goes, whilst giving you all of the spectacular action scenes and beautiful scenery you expect. So yeah, it's really, really good. It's weird because there's a lot of hype out there, and I know that a lot of people love this series, and there are a lot of PlayStation fans out there who are really willing it to be amazing. I don't think it can be as amazing as Uncharted 2 was. At least it couldn't without completely redefining the series, but that would be a different kind of betrayal, I think, to just being a bit crap. I think if you made an open world Uncharted game, it would cease to be an Uncharted game. It would cease to be what people enjoy those games for. So it needs to still be like this sort of smooth flowing cinematic action game.
So it's the kind of satisfying closing chapter that you...
Yeah, and it is a closing chapter as well. And this impressed me as well. Like,
they actually said that they will never make another Uncharted game, I think.
They've said they will never make an Uncharted game, and I can't remember the exact wording, but they certainly see it as the last game starring Nathan Drake.
Sure, okay.
The series belongs to Sony. It's up to them what they do with it. It's made so much money, you would expect, and also been so great for their reputation, you would expect that like... the name Uncharted appearing on future games, it wouldn't be a surprising turn of events. And yeah, maybe they'll find a way to continue to do it with Nathan Drake as well. It's not impossible. Naughty Dog have made it difficult, no spoilers, but they have. But like you really, they're fairly unequivocal about the fact that they are done, and that they're closing it out.
It's a relief to hear that as well, I think. Just after having played The Last of Us, it would feel strange for them to now like alternate between those 2 series. It feels like the studio's going in a different direction.
Yeah.
I think what I said earlier.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had an eye on what happens after The Last of Us now already as well.
Like that's what they did before with Jack and Daxter moving to Uncharted.
Yeah, and with Crash Bandicoot before that. It's a series. It's a studio that
knows when enough is enough.
They will take a few years to really refine the hell out of something, and then they will close the door and they'll move on.
I like that. I've got so much respect
me too.
for that. Yeah.
That is great. I still can't quite believe the people that made Jack and Daxter, then made Uncharted, then made The Last of Us. Like that. That's an incredible journey of like studio design. It's all over the place. But they made it work. And I don't know. There's something nice to see, like especially with a big successful series and one that's attached so closely to a console, that they'll just say, okay, we're done. And it's refreshing to see that. I think other studios sometimes feel, well, okay, this is the Xbox game now, so let's keep making the Xbox game.
I wonder if it was easier or harder that it was like not the original creative directors of the game who made that.
Yeah.
Who made that call.
Yeah, that's true.
You would think that Amy Hennig would probably want to move away from it, but it may in a sense be harder for her because she's got that level of emotion. Not that Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley didn't work on the earlier Uncharted games, because they did, but they weren't the leads of it.
And also maybe they even want to then like move on to something that they can call their own.
Yeah, in a way they might be motivated to close it so that they then get to, you know.
Also, The Last of Us was bloody brilliant. I'm completely okay with like seeing what they want to do with that after.
It's nice in a world where television series and movie series
are always like 3 seasons too long.
Yeah, it's nice where people can actually put full stop on stuff and say, let's move on.
Absolutely. Here's a very inward-facing question. Ollie Welsh, were you quite pleased to not have to deal with review scores for Uncharted, considering that IGN's 8.8 has apparently been the controversy of the week?
Really?
Which is 8.8.
I don't know. There was quite a lot of reads like an essential on my reviews. So we haven't completely dodged that bullet.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I guess I was in a way. I think that's a thing that you get when these really revered games, that particularly those that are platform exclusive, come out. Yeah. They have a certain kind of internet commenter who wants to rally around them. I do get that there are a lot of fans out there who were surprised that I called it the best game in the series, which I fully believe it is, and then didn't give it an essential. Mm-hmm. To explain that, well, maybe I don't love Uncharted as much as you, and that might be a factor. I do really enjoy the games, but I don't think they're the greatest thing out there. They're not my favourite. But I think it's really more about time. Like Tom Bramwell gave Uncharted 2 10 out of 10 when that game came out, and you can fully understand the reviewer making that decision. Even though I can now, and did last year, play Uncharted 2 and pick loads of massive holes in it. Mm-hmm. Especially towards the end of that game, I think it really falls apart. Yeah. But at that time, you'd never seen anything like it, and you can fully understand the game having that kind of reaction. I really believe you have to review every game for the moment when it's released.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, to me, it makes sense that I can say that Uncharted 4 is a better game than Uncharted 2. In fact, I would hope that it would be, however many years, 7-8 years down the line. I would hope that they would have figured out that actually maybe they got the pacing a bit wrong, or maybe they could do such and such a thing to improve the combat.
Sure.
But also acknowledge the fact that it's not going to like electrify you in the same way that Uncharted 2 did back then. So yeah, that's that. But the 8.8 thing, I don't. Was that IGN? Was it GameSpot? It was IGN. Yeah. Yeah, I feel for those guys. You know, I think everybody in this room's been there, and it's part of the job. Yeah,
I think IGN get it pretty tough as well. Like it seems to be with most reviews, there's the IGN score is. I actually today with I reviewed Stellaris, and a similar kind of thing happened. That game, by the way, if we're okay to move on to it, is really freaking good. So I'm a huge fan of Paradox Development Studio. So you've got the publisher, but the development studio focuses specifically on grand strategy games, and knowingly hardcore. See, I think casual and hardcore. These aren't words that I really like. Knowingly niche games, I guess they don't appeal to everyone. So Crusader Kings 2, probably one of my favorite games. But if you look at it, it's an interactive map that you color in, and that is a hard sell to begin with.
Sounds brilliant to me.
It is brilliant, and there is so much going on in that game. It's one of the best simulations you'll ever experience, and gives you a better understanding of history, but also lets you do all this wild, crazy stuff. It's fantastic. But you show someone a screenshot of that game, and you say, "This is the video game that I've spent 300 hours in. What do you think of it?" They'll say, "That looks naff. I'm going to go play Total War where you can do
I'm worried
big battles."
About you, Chris.
Yeah. Have you guys ever played the Paradox?
No. I'm a person who enjoys. I'd say I enjoy tactics games rather than strategy games. Yeah. I enjoy XCOM. I enjoy Advance Wars. Sure. I enjoy Invisible Inc. But strategy games, full on this is my 1,000-year plan strategy games. They scare me.
That's why I'm careful to call it a grand strategy game, because it's all about the big picture stuff. In Crusader Kings is perhaps a little bit different because you think about individual characters, but even then you're thinking about the family and the dynasty, which is over hundreds of years. And it's not a game about within an individual battle you're I'm going to flank here and do this really cool moment, which you would in a Total War game, for example. It's none of that. It's the big. You often win battles, and I said this in the review for Stellaris, years ahead of you actually doing them, because you've prepared correctly. You've built a big enough force, you've invested your research into enough. Those are the moments where you win cool battles, a long time before they actually happen. But I'm really into that, and Stellaris has just it's absolutely nailed it for me. So it is a grand strategy game. It's also it's doing the whole kind of 4X thing. It's a game about exploring space, taking more territory, meeting other like civilizations and empires, and trying to figure out how you exist alongside them. But the one thing that I really like about this game, and I think it's actually probably the Paradox strategy game that I'd recommend, is that it actually introduces you to that in a way that isn't freaking terrifying. Like you start playing Crusader Kings or European Universalis, you see most of the map to begin with. Crusader Kings, you can actually see every single province, and you can click on every single province, and you can see, okay, this is ruled by this duke, but who is actually underneath him there's like these earls, and then underneath that there's like a mayor of that town, and suddenly you're like on the other side of the map looking at a town that you'll never have to think about, because there is actually a character there who, if you click on him, has a wife and parents and children and ambitions of his own, and you're like, what the hell am I doing over here? This is never going to impact my game, and you get lost down a rabbit hole, and it's scary. That is actually why I love the game, but when you first start playing, that's too much. You don't need that to begin with. In fact, if you ever play Crusader Kings 2, which is a great game, you should always, I think, start somewhere small. I think actually starting in Ireland is really cool, because you can just focus on Ireland and maybe a little bit of England and what's going on in Scotland or whatever, and you can then play a small game in a big game. Whereas if you start with one of the bigger countries, you're terrified because everything's going on. Like France has declared war on you, and that's because of like this historical feud, and then, oh god, they're going to bring this ally because of this marriage that happened 100 years ago. That stuff isn't in Stellaris, because in Stellaris you take on the role of an empire that's just started in terms of like venturing into space. You've just got your first spacefaring craft. You like very small military fleet, tiny inconsequential military fleet, a science ship, and a ship with which to construct things, and that's it. And I played under I played as the United Nations of Earth, which is like basically in this world, it's just a pre-made empire that you can play. It's like the final evolution of the UN, and it basically that's what I call it. And it's like it's in this solar system, which you understand, and you start the game just in that solar system. Like you can expand out and look at the galaxy, but you don't know anything other than a few maybe observable stars, which your empire is named.
The sun looks really nice.
The sun does look really nice. But instead of like zooming out and seeing everyone straight away, that will eventually happen, but not for hours and hours and hours. It means you can start small, and it means you can focus on small, immediate things, which is what you should always do in these games. But when there's a lot of information, you're scared of doing that. Like your first action in this game is to research your own solar system. You send your scientists out, and you're like, okay, what's actually on these planets? Like in here, like is there anything that we can use? And they, oh, cool, there's some like energy that we could mine from this planet, or we could research this thing over here. And then like suddenly that's happening, and you're like researching other things at the same time. You're thinking about colonization because you found a planet that you could habitate like in a bordering system, and you're doing all these things, and you're very slowly just learning the systems of the game.
Games that start small definitely bring you in,
and it becomes massive eventually, like bigger than any of their other games in some respects. It's a whole galaxy that you're playing around in, but that sense of like progression and starting small helps you as the player not be terrified, and also thematically feels amazing because you feel like you've just started out. Like you just like you look out at all the stars that they're on. You like as the player, and this is probably my favorite moment of the game, is actually before you meet anyone. Every time you unpause the game because you want your scientist to like move over to that planet, every other empire in the game is currently moving. Like it's all being simulated. You can't see any of it, but you know that out there somewhere in the galaxy, these huge empires, some of them huge, some of them just the same size as you, are doing things and interacting. There might even be a war going on that you don't know about. And it's that wonderful human thing of when you look out at stars and you think, I wonder if right now someone else is looking out back at me, like without getting
recording a podcast,
too romantic about it. Like that game, this game evokes it. And
what's the weirdest race that you've met?
I think it was probably Stellaris is really into fungal like races and empires.
Because they're fun guys.
They are fun guys. There are a lot of fun guys, and like I'd probably some of those, and they're also all their attributes are procedurally generated. I played as this UN future version of the UN, but I could have created something myself. But yeah, so every time you meet a race, like you don't know what you're going to run into. And in fact, in the review, I mentioned the first contact, which is a huge moment in your game. It's like, without going too wanky about it again, like the proof that there are other things out there in this universe that you've been playing around in. The first people I met were
was it David Duchovny?
They were mollusks, which is like weird enough
They've
anyway.
Got big muscles
because they don't look anything like humans. So you're like, okay, well, this is a bit strange, but I'll be cool about it. It's space.
Don't stare.
Turns out, so I was playing a democracy that like favored the idea of individuals and individualism. Like society is a useful tool, but there's nothing wrong with you as an individual trying to progress. Basically.
What a horrible idea!
Absolutely crazy, isn't it? And the first people I met were xenophobic, like really super xenophobic. They hated everyone that wasn't them, and they were a collective, so they hated the idea of individualism.
Natural antagonists.
So they've been procedurally generated to hate me. It was the first people I met.
Hello, nice to meet you.
It didn't go well, but
Did you kill them? Did you stamp them out?
I didn't kill them. I basically used the fact that because they were xenophobes, everyone else thought they were a bit rubbish as well. So I used that fact to eventually make an alliance and win a war. I vassalized them, so they became part of my empire. And there was a really cool moment when that happens. And that, by the way, is like the vassalization and then bringing them into your empire, like actually making them citizens, is hundreds of years and also like tens of hours in the game. Like it was like this really lengthy process. It felt really important. And there was this really amazing moment when it happened. I'd gone from being the human empire to half of my population now being mollusks. And eventually, because I was a democracy, my leader who was elected at one point was a mollusk, and like they would start becoming like taking positions of government.
Didn't you just clam up under pressure?
They just it's just like, right, guys, how does everyone feel about xenophobia? I feel like that's what we should be about now. No, it's they took on our ethics, and oh god, maybe I was maybe we were the bad guys. We may stop it.
Sorry.
And I just love that moment because I'd gone from being I'm the humans in this galaxy. How do I survive? And then suddenly I wasn't anymore. I was like this.
So how long was your? So I look at those games and I love them. I think it's great. I was a big Total War fan. And then my time that I could play games dropped out.
Sure.
So, and I look at those games and I think, whoa, that's a big time investment.
It is.
So how much time investment?
I think a full campaign you're looking at probably
how much
50 to 60 hours, something like that.
Not...
Yeah. So, but that's maybe on like a medium-sized galaxy, and also it's there is a victory condition, but as with all the Paradox games, it's not really about that. You just keep on playing anyway and keep on doing new stuff. And this game actually, I won't repeat all the stuff I said in the review, but does a really good job of surprising the player. And the one thing I hate about both grand strategy games and 4X games in general is that the late game is always a bit naff because you get so big and so powerful.
All right. Hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Finish your point.
Okay. That you paint the map your color, and you're so powerful that you'll never actually come up against a threat that you can't beat. This game does some really cool, surprising stuff to make you never feel like that's really the case. Yeah. It's just a really good thing. And
you've kind of just sold me on it.
Sounds fun.
The honestly, like the fact that I had a mollusk president is a lovely thing. Now that I because of the story that led up to that moment, it's really important to my game. Like that is like a huge part of what my empire was and what it stood for and the goals that I was chasing after.
I'm trying to think of puns.
To do with mollusks, which means we definitely need to move on. Okay, cool. Do we have any other games that need to be brought up, or should we move on to some questions?
I can't. I'm a few hours under embargo from when this.
Oh yeah. So this is going up on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, I can probably say I've been to see The Witcher 3 expansion, Blood and Wine.
Yep.
And there'll be something on the site in the afternoon when you're listening to this, but I can't say anything more because that would probably be
okay.
Did you like it?
I thought it was amazing.
Oh, that's good to hear.
I'm excited because I love The Witcher 3, so that's, and also I love wine, and that seems to be part of the expansion.
All right, cool. Let's move on to questions then, which I've left over there. So this is great. You guys just talk amongst yourselves.
Just hum in the background.
So I picked this one because it's Mr. Tom and I really like him, who asks, who is the best Overwatch character and why is it May?
Oh.
Is it May or Mai? This is another thing. This is like your surname all over again.
See,
May. M-E-I. That's what I thought.
because you say it as actually two syllables. May.
Right. Okay.
Right. Wow, that's the best answer I've heard on that.
Yeah, that is actually good.
Because we had this whole conversation and we didn't get anywhere.
I think we just confused ourselves. Who's your favourite Overwatch character? You have one? It's a tough question, isn't it? They're all really quite wonderful.
I started off, and I guess maybe I tend towards, because I've done this in MMOs before, but I tend towards support characters. So I started off on that end of the character roster. And I'm very fond of Zenyatta, but I got a bit bored of playing him. Now
he's the like monkey robot.
No, that's no. He's a monk that's a robot. That's
yeah. He's very Diablo monk.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh right, yeah. No, sorry, I didn't mean monkey. I meant
because there is a sort of monkey character. Yeah. That's. Oh right, I see. Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah, that totally works.
Yes, because he has a debuff orb that he can put on people, and then actually it's surprisingly powerful. You can take people out, and you can charge up and unload like all of.
He's actually a healer that can do a lot of damage, which is surprising.
And then Mercy, I played a bunch. She's the more sort of. She's a strong healer, but she also damage buffs people as well.
So you're a support guy then?
And she's great at shooting people. And there's no better look than a Genji or a flanking character when you pull out the gun and kill them, and you can tell
kill people with mercy.
Yeah, and they're
crazy man.
And they're
what?
like, yeah, you're a support character. You just killed me. And I do it for that sort of...
So Mercy is a character with a healing stick that can either heal people or increase their damage. And then she's got a pistol as well, which in my mind is just a bit of a novelty. Like if you're bored, you can shoot her. You actually kill people with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because sometimes, your team just disappears and you're like, right, I'm just gonna charge in. So I've played a lot of the support characters and I think they're all good. And May,
you're gonna have to pick one.
May I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun on console with Reinhardt, but Zarya, the Russian muscle bodybuilder lady, who
she is actually my favourite, I think.
And I think because people,
what does she do?
People underestimate her. She has a bubble that she can put on herself, like an energy bubble, and that she can project on other people. And her damage increases the more damage that bubble absorbs.
Her normal weapon doesn't do a lot, but if...
she tank or damage?
Yeah, she's a tank. But if she does her job well, if you do your job well, and you get people to shoot you with that shield, your weapon increases in power incrementally. And then because people... I still think at the moment, part of the reason I like Zarya...
People don't understand
People don't understand how she works, so they're just like, oh, that shield's annoying, I'm just going to shoot at it till it goes away.
Mr. Tom clearly loves May. May is the ice wall lady,
yes,
right?
She is really, really good.
Bertie and I have had one incredible game with her, which was like holding an objective, and to get to the objective, most of the time you go through this big archway, and... because there were two mazes and we had separate cooldowns, we just kept planting ice walls in front of it. We tried that since and didn't have quite as much success, but it was genuinely one of the funniest and nicest moments I've had playing that.
So and these guys, I don't. I'm probably not going to play Overwatch because it's not really my kind of game, despite being a massive Blizzard fan. But they're so bloody good at skill design.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous how good they are at skill design.
And I'm excited by the fact that we're clearly only just scratching the surface of that as well. There's going to be more to come. They teased stuff already. All right. I'm gonna... There is a follow-up one about Overwatch that asks, do you think there are too many games trying to replicate League but in FPS format? I think that question is more directed at games like Battleborn than it is Overwatch, to be honest. And I think there's some confusion around how those two games work.
Yes and no. So, like, there's a lot of shooters that are doing the hero thing, and some of them are more like trying to do a MOBA shooter than others. So the ones that are like MOBAs but shooters are Battleborn and
Battlecry. Smite, if it's still
Battlecry isn't really a thing anymore. Yeah. And
Smite is just a straight MOBA.
What's the epic one?
Paragon. Yeah.
There are other games like Overwatch which are, they take one really important thing from MOBAs, which is let's make it all about these heroes that have really defining skills, but they don't take the character leveling in game, and they don't take they don't have minions and in-game creeps and all of that stuff. So there is a distinction to make, but I do sort of get the question. I'm not sure there are too many. I think there was this weird situation which I can't say I've ever seen before in my years as a games journalist, when there wasn't a proven success in this area out there, but there were a whole bunch of people trying to do the same thing. Normally you get somebody who comes up with an idea, has a big success with it, and everybody tries to copy them. Instead, you had a whole bunch of people who thought this is where the next successful game is going to be, and they all came up with a whole bunch of different ideas. So I wouldn't say there were too many, because I think it's kind of a cool process for loads of stuff to be thrown at the wall and to see what sticks. And it's almost definitely Overwatch.
We've got a lot of them in the same area. The one situation that reminds me of that a little bit is the 4v1 stuff. I know, I know Evolve came with some clear inspirations from Left 4 Dead, but the 4v1 multiplayer focused game.
It was that BioWare game that didn't even come out.
And there's one Fable Legends.
Realms.
Yeah. That was playable at E3.
I played it, Gamescom, I think it was.
Right, Gamescom.
And Fable Legends, which also didn't come out. And basically, Evolve came out and it died, and everybody else went, I'm canning my one then.
Yeah, and the annoying thing is, by the sounds of it, none of those games were bad. Like, I know Evolve did some stupid stuff with its DLC, and I get that, and it was dumb and it was confusing, but it wasn't a bad game. It wasn't bad. And
what I heard about Evolve is you really need to play it in a room with people, and it didn't work as well.
Which is why
online.
Game shows it works fantastically.
Which is actually why the same thing for all of those 4v1 games. Which is perhaps a problem. All right, okay, moving on. Will we ever see the big return of the movie tie-in game? Asked Simon Steerer. I should mention that we've taken most of these questions from Twitter, but if you want to send in anything in a bit more substantial, podcast@Eurogamer.net is the place to do that.
Also, contact@Eurogamer.net is an email to us as well. Which you can
there you go. All right. Will we ever see the big return of the movie tie-in game?
No, I think you're going to see the medium-sized return of the movie tie-in game. Well, I think Activision, after years of flogging this horse to death, have suddenly hit on a really good idea with their movie tie-in stuff, which is instead of that's a separate idea and a very good one. But instead of getting some not particularly talented studio to try and make something that looks like a AAA game that isn't, why not get Platinum to make an 80s arcade game out of it? And so that's what happened with what they did with. So they've taken all this stuff that they used to churn out loads of dreadful Spider-Man and Transformers games, and they've given Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Platinum to make these really sort of stripped down, low budget, but nicely tuned and playable beat 'em ups. And I think that's actually a really clever idea. It's like making sort of the modern version of a 16-bit game in a way, and I think that's kind of the future. Make them good. Make them good, but make them good by lowering your expectations. Give it a small budget, but make sure the developer knows what it's doing and is working in a genre it's comfortable with that works well enough with the license.
I thought there was a really strange example with Ratchet and Clank, which is their whole marketing thing.
Was that a movie tie-in game or a game tie-in movie? I couldn't really.
It's a game based on the movie, based on the original game. So both, all of them. I don't know. And that game came out and everyone freaking loved it. It's like, oh, this is Return of Ratchet and Clank. It's like there's so much nostalgia to enjoy. It looks incredible, and this series was good. Why did we all stop playing this series? And then, there's a movie, and I feel like there was a moment where people were just starting to get excited about the idea of a movie because the in-game cinematic stuff looked incredible, and then the movie was naff, really, really bad. And it doesn't usually happen that way. I think this is a unique example anyway. But yeah, the game was prepping people for the movie. The game was really good, and the movie wasn't.
I think, like Ollie kind of said, there's an issue when people think that the two things are effectively the same.
That is a huge problem.
And they can just kind of cash in. One thing makes it's nice when people go, well, a movie will do this, and then for the games, let's get someone who makes an actual game, and let's just let them make a game, not remake the movie in game form.
And that said, the Lego game phenomenon is it's incredible and it's worked so incredible. And if you don't think Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens is going to be one of the biggest games this year, then you are wrong, because that game is going to be huge, huge, no Lego game has been for a really long time.
Yeah. And they're good. That's the secret of Lego games. Yeah. You may get bored of playing them if you do every single one, but they're good.
Tom Phillips still.
We're also in a really weird situation with that particular game where not only is Harrison Ford in it in a Lego game, but that they're doing official canon backstory, but that's only going to exist in a Lego.
Yeah, what C-3PO's red arm. I think that's they're exploring that. That might have been in a
what
comic,
happened,
actually.
Max von Sydow's backstory.
How Han Solo captured those monsters on the ship that you first encountered. Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah, I know. That's the only way you can experience this actual Star Wars stuff is in the form of a Lego parody of a story that didn't otherwise exist. It's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Modern pop culture is a weird place.
One of the things that are you coming as well, Bertie? I'm not sure, but we're going to go and see the Warcraft movie towards the end of this month.
Yeah. I'm not coming. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is awkward.
I do want to see it.
Yeah, that's going to be. I'm really not sure how I feel about that.
You've got a bunch of people who are really, really excited to geek out of a Warcraft movie, but simultaneously know that it's going to be dreadful.
I think what's going to happen is I'm going to really enjoy the way they've designed the mailbox in Stormwind, and I'll hate the movie.
There's going to be a string of like little fan service that we can go,
which is what the first trailer was, if we're honest. Like that's what we were like.
The issue for me is that so I played Horde, and so the Horde doesn't exist in Azeroth yet because they haven't gone through the portal. So all the stuff that I am familiar with,
it's just the orcs.
It's orcs,
and even then,
who like the grandfathers and stuff.
Well,
like
so
people that...
Thrall is supposed to be born in the movie, and those orcs are very different to what the Horde is in like World of Warcraft. Yeah, so that is.
And I'm undead power.
I know. I will be a little bit like, OMG, that's baby Thrall. Can you imagine?
The Forsaken,
so cute.
The Forsaken don't even exist, mate. It's
see that seeing the Forsaken would be perfect,
but. Not gonna happen.
No, it's Sylvanas.
Isn't that, mate? That's another. If it's the same timeline, that's like 30 or 40 years away. All right. What time is it? How many questions do you think we've got time left?
I think it's like 10 o'clock, isn't it?
All right. I'm gonna ask 2 more questions. Mr. Binks says, "Do you think NX stands a chance in this Xbox/PlayStation dominated landscape?" That is a tough question to answer. Ollie Welsh, is Nintendo gonna be all right?
I have a rule. I think I've probably mentioned it before on the podcast.
Never bet against Nintendo.
Never ever bet against Nintendo because they can always surprise you.
Yeah. I remember doing
They've done it multiple times in my time as a gamer, and like at least twice in my time as a video games journalist. Like, so I remember when the DS was launched, and everybody was like, "I don't even understand what this is. It sounds completely rubbish." Took over the world. Exactly the same thing happened with the Wii.
Yeah.
3DS, all right, hasn't been a roaring success, but is an amazing console with an amazing software library. So they've had one stumble. It's been a really bad stumble, but they've had one stumble, and they have huge amounts.
Also a stumble, really.
Yeah, I know. And the N64 even. It's sacrilege to say it because it was an amazing console, but it didn't do great. They've had a stumble, a bad one, but they've had a stumble. They've also got a challenge with the change of leadership and the sad passing of Mr. Iwata. But they've got stupid amounts of money. They've got incredibly high standards. They've got one of the greatest, probably the greatest in-house studio in the world.
And they got a new Zelda game.
You never rule them out of the game. Yep. So, like, I think what they're doing on mobile is quite interesting. I can't wait to play Fire Emblem on my mobile. And Animal Crossing, so that's one thing, and I'm sure that'll work out. But it's tough. Don't get me wrong, it's super tough. And also, they had an opportunity to launch hardware sort of on their own, but now they don't actually have that anymore because it looks like Sony and quite possibly Xbox as well are going to have refreshed consoles to launch. Mm-hmm. You've got PlayStation VR in the mix as well. It's cutthroat, but. You never know with them. I honestly don't know as well because there's some talk of them doing something that's quite conservative with traditional controls that can get more third parties on. No. And I get it, but also I just don't think that's how Nintendo makes money. Do you know what I mean? Well, I mean, they make money by releasing Mario Kart, so they can do that in that scenario still.
I would buy a Nintendo console for the new Mario Kart.
Do you know what? I don't know if I would buy a PlayStation Neo, but I will definitely buy whatever Nintendo put out next because I'll want it.
I think like the third party thing comes up every generation with Nintendo.
It just doesn't matter that much to them.
Yeah, it's just like, forget it, just... Forget it.
This is something I've never asked before. Actually, I joined games journalism about 3 years ago. What was the reaction like to the Nintendo Wii? How did the media
poo-pooed it? People were poo-pooing like this thing.
We laughed so hard about the brand, and
the word Wii
we were sort of. I was quite excited by the controller, but I didn't really know what to make of it. And when the console actually hit, Wii Sports was fun, but it wasn't sort of what we were as core gamers were expecting or looking for. So for games journalists, it was an odd one, and then we saw it like have this huge runaway success without us.
Yeah.
kind of what happened similarly a couple of years later with the iPhone, and we were like, oh, but
come back.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it was a weird one. So I don't think they're going to shake it up that much. But I think they will have at least one completely amazing game for it. Hopefully they will sort their marketing out, because that went really badly off the rails with Wii U. And do you know what? If it doesn't work out, they'll make so much money out of Animal Crossing on mobile that they'll be fine. And also, like, literally, I bet you Nintendo has more money in the bank than the whole of Sony Corp. I bet you that is true.
They do. They are sitting on an enormous war chest. I think people forget
the phrase war chest to talk about
people
video
forget
game
this, but they are sitting on a huge cash pile. Sony,
like
as a wider business, has been struggling for many years. PlayStation within that business is strong at the moment.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I don't never rule them out, basically.
All right, fair enough. And one final question comes from Phil Morley, who asks, "How regular is this podcast meant to be again?"
I thought it was every 2 weeks, Chris. I think that's what I told you in the email when we set this up.
I have no idea what's prompted that question. It is every 2 weeks, Ollie, obviously, and we will be back in not 1 Tuesday time, but 2 Tuesdays time, and we will see you then. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you to my guests, Bertie.
You're welcome.
No surname, and Ollie Welsh. And also Christian.
And Chris Dolan, who's mysteriously known.
He's definitely outside opening Clash Royale chests, without a doubt. That'll be it. All right. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.